out until mid-September. In terms of the cost, on page 3 of the memo that we included in your packet is kind of a table that kind of compares where we have been with previous estimates as to where we are now. Back when we first looked at this in June, we were just starting the preliminary layout, we were estimating the project would be about $185,000 construction cost. After we'd done the preliminary design, that estimate was refined down to about $167,000. Now where we're coming in with the sanitary sewer work is about $172,000. So we're right between that initial estimate and then the second estimate. The difference is now we've added in this water main work that was not included in the previous estimates. And that water main is about $32,000 worth of cost. We've discussed it with Randy at KMU, and he's supportive of doing the work if this project goes forward. So the total current estimated construction cost we've got is just under $205,000. So even when you compare that back to the initial estimate we had of $185,000 in June, we're still within about 11% of that initial estimate. So costs, at least in the estimate, are still tracking fairly close. We haven't had any huge surprises that have come up other than this addition of this little bit of water main. We do need to qualify that by saying this is a fairly small project in scale, right? I mean, it's a fairly isolated area, and it is a specialized type of work, so the market conditions are really going to dictate what that price comes in at. And we're hoping that we've got a good estimate here and that the bids will be right around the estimate we put together, but we'll have to wait to see what kind of response we can put it out on the streets. So, as Derek indicated, the resolution would approve the plans, authorize us to advertise, but it wouldn't yet set the exact time of the advertising and the time of the bid opening. It leaves it open for us to decide that based on the feedback we get from MnDOT. Because we don't want to advertise it until MnDOT tells us that they're good with the plan and we can go ahead. We would be required to advertise for at least 10 days. Depending on how quickly we get the response from MnDOT, we may advertise it for 21 days, which is more of the standard that we typically do for advertising. But we'd advertise it in the official city newspaper, we'd advertise it in the local trade bulletin, and then we put it out on the online services for advertisement as well. So, and then we'd probably beat the bushes a little bit with some of the contractors we know that do this lining work to let them know that this project is available for bids.
Well, whatever kind of luck we have, it's a project that actually needs to get done. And we've got beyond everything else, we've got to show the PCA or EPA or whatever the heck their acronym is, that we're doing everything we can to deal with this mercury situation.
This is about the most cost-effective approach you can take for this
Right.
line. And you do get physical benefits out of it. We'll have the new manhole in, we'll get this water main updated, and we'll get the new poly liner in the pipe. That should be good for the next 80 years.
Well, I move that we approve resolution number 2019-09.
I'll second it.
On favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Wonderful.
Thank you, Council. We'll keep you updated and through the city administrator on schedule as the advertising and bid become more clear.
So then we can move on to legal. And first item there is, again, discuss amending section 405 of the city code dealing with rental units, ordinance number 92, placing section 405, Kenyon City Code. It doesn't appear to be greatly changed from the last.
No, you have the same ordinance before you that we discussed at the work session on the 12th, as well as just briefly at the council meeting. What we did tweak in the ordinance itself was clarify on page 4 of the ordinance, section 405.05, where we discussed only one rental or only one registration certificate is applied to a unit or an entity. Then in the second paragraph there, it talks about there will be a per unit additional fee, which was kicked around. That's just a suggestion, you don't have to go with that, but it seemed like that was the most equitable way to do this, rather than having a registration fee for every single unit, that specifics, if you have a 12-unit, 8-unit, whatever it may be, that they're paying the same amount. It's one overall fee plus some upcharge, whether it be, $5, $10, whatever you think is appropriate for each additional unit. It also would allow, if there was an enforcement action that did have to occur, the discretion of the city to look at it and only deal with the specific units that are at issue, not the entire property. Discretion's still there. If you've got 5 out of 6, maybe you're doing the whole property anyways, that kind of thing. But it does give some latitude. That's just a suggestion to you, after conversation that we had at the meeting. Other than that, no, we have not changed much. It still is set for an April 1st date, which would be obviously starting soon. You may want to push that back a little bit just to give notification. And it is annual. We talked about maybe this would be a situation where you go to every other year kind of situation for registration. This was the starting point. It's up to you folks what you want to do. Beyond that, the language is the same as we discussed last week.
There's two things in here that I was wondering about in the
Okay.
definitions of rental premises.
Okay?
And most of it's pretty clear, but one thing that puzzled me a lot was, rental premises shall not include all the different things. Owner occupied single-family dwellings, well, are they by definition, if it's occupied by the owner, it's not rented,
Yeah,
so
well,
it's.
you sometimes get redundant in things, yeah.
And the other question was, it does a good job of defining rental property, except I don't see a place where it actually mentions rental fees, so couldn't you just say, oh, well, they're just couch surfing here, and, yeah, they help me out with the groceries every.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, you do get a situation where somebody has borders, but they're not
Yeah,
paying rent in the
Yeah.
sense of the world.
I don't have a solution to it.
Yeah, I
just
gotta
came up
say, I
with-
don't have one on that.
That's not real clear, but I don't know how to make it better.
Yeah, there's not a perfect solution. We've run into that in other cities that have the more robust type ordinance where they're saying it's not really a rental situation. I've got a contract for deed. Well, no, you don't. You have a rent situation. They're paying you dollars. They have not filed a contract for deed. So you have all other scenarios that come up that I don't know that you can cover everything in this ordinance. We're trying to reduce the volume of pages here, and I think that might add a lot if we tried to cover absolutely everything perfectly.
It just occurred to me that it's not really clearly covered there, but I don't know how, as I said, to do it better.
I would like to make a change to the renewal piece of it, because if we've got if we got an owner who's doing a really good job, really on top of things, and then to lock them in the same boat as someone who isn't, we're not really incentivizing doing a good job. So I don't know if we could have language in there that would say that, if there are no complaints or issues, that your registration certificate will last for 3 years, or 2, 3, 4, whatever, and then those folks would only have to come back and renew, say once every 3 years or whatever. I'm not stuck on a date, but then if you are getting citations, then you have to come in, every year, and just because there are more issues there, we want to keep a closer scrutiny on those properties. I just think that'd be a good way to incentivize, for the owners to take better care, make sure they're on top of things, cut them a little break. That's just my thought.
Yeah, I agree.
And could we go even further and to the point where, as long as there are no complaints, no problems, you don't have to renew next year? And so it can
Right.
extend out for forever, in fact.
Unless there's a change of ownership or some, you
yes,
know, some, yeah, something.
It's not on the property, it's on the owner.
Yeah,
I think that, we're gonna want a set time period though. You know, one of the main reasons cities have these kind of ordinances is just to keep track of where the rental units are. And so, this is something that, you know, Scott and I talked about, was this whole term or the length of the permit
Yeah.
of the license. You know, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. I think you need a regular, some type of renewal period, whether it's 24 months, even if they're doing a good job. I still think that I think we're gonna kind of lose track of them otherwise, or, you know, because then it becomes difficult to track, you know, if you say that they don't have to renew as long as they meet compliance, you know, and 5 years goes along or whatever, it becomes difficult to keep up with that from the city standpoint. Even though we're still a little small town, it's still, we've got a lot of, between houses and apartments, you know, it's hard to keep track of all of those places here, you know, in City Hall. So I think we need a term, you know, whether it's 2 or 3 years, 1 year, whatever it is, so that they are gonna have to come back, you know, and just renew. And I think we talked about the cost being one of the factors that we don't wanna to not discourage people to come in and get their licensing. So we wanna try to keep that reasonable, but at the same time, I think we do need to have them come in and, you know, renew their permit every, whatever the time period is that's decided, so that we can keep track of that.
how about 3 years if you're doing, if there are no citations, and 1 year if there are?
How about this idea of making it an annual or a biannual review, not necessarily renewal? If the review doesn't show any problems, then you're not totally letting them go free. You know that you're going to be looking at the situation, and probably annually would just make sense. Just everybody that's registered, you just once a year run through and see because they'll all come due eventually at the same time.
Right.
And a quick review, well, these people have showed no problems, they're current on their taxes, they haven't any issues with their renters. To let them go another year or 2 years or kind of a compromise there. Well, Mark, of course.
Okay. Or
Well,
Lee?
it's with me and, yeah,
Yeah.
the police chief, basically is what that amounts to.
Yeah.
I think 3 years is a good term.
Yes, I agree.
Let me ask, and I'll try to understand. All right, is it 3 years and we have a review during those time periods, or is it they go until there's something that shows up in the review?
I think we talked about, they pay the initial.
Yep.
And then review each year.
Okay.
If there's no problems, then it's extended.
Mhm.
If there's a problem, then they renew
Okay.
each year.
Okay.
Am I understanding that right?
I like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And you're saying if no issues, then a renewal is never necessary, or?
No, I'm saying a renewal would be necessary that third year.
Yeah, after
Okay,
3 years.
that's what I thought.
That's what I was trying to.
That's what I thought I
Yeah.
understood, and I agree with that.
Then I get it. I just wanted to make sure I
Yeah.
was really clear on that. That's what I thought you were saying. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, annual review, but 3 years if no problems, annually if there are problems that come up.
Okay.
Then I think the other question we talked about was, one of the other questions was the fee structure.
Yep.
You know, do we want to charge per unit or building? You know, in looking at that question, I think that, or I guess maybe a better way to put this would be, maybe we could talk, or one thing I wanna talk about was, just as an idea was, maybe if we take like, you know, if we don't go per unit, like if we do per unit, then that's pretty much flat out. If you have 10 units, you're gonna pay, you know, whatever the fee is times 10. If you have 1 unit, you're gonna pay it. But what about if we said like 0 to 4 units would pay X amount, 4 to 8 units would pay, or 4 to 10 or whatever? Because I think there is an enforcement kind of dynamic with a larger unit, like say Roseview or the old hotel where we've got more units. I think to charge them the same amount as, you know, you would charge, say, a duplex isn't really practical, to be honest with you. But at the same time, we don't want to make their fee, you know, hundreds of dollars either, the bigger places.
Right.
But would there be a way to
I like that idea.
kind of tier it? Yeah, like step. So that we would, because the bigger units, we are gonna have more, time, you know, enforcement, well, that, hopefully not enforcement, but we're gonna have more time with when they renew, and just in general, because there's more units there. Where if you have a smaller, you know, just a duplex or a single family house that's rented, we're gonna have a lot less time, so maybe they should pay less. But I think that a larger unit should pay more, a building with more units should pay more, but we don't wanna make it too much
Not
either.
proportional to
The way we did the revised draft, there is an application fee, and if there's additional units, they pay another fee beyond that for each additional unit. That's what it's drafted right now.
Okay,
Which
so-
doesn't have to be the
yeah.
same amount, so if it was taking round numbers, $100 and then $10 or $20 for each additional unit, the bigger units would have to pay more for the number of
Okay.
units, but that's how we have it drafted.
All right, if it's like 10 or
Well,
12
yes,
or
that's-
something.
Now, that's not clearly set out in here specifically, so would that just be an administrative thing that?
It is in 405.05 sub 2, where there's a non-refundable application fee.
Yes.
And in the case of the multifamily dwelling unit, there's additional per unit application fee.
But it
We
doesn't
need that fee. Yes.
We just have to set what the amount
You
is,
have to
so.
set the
Specify
amount.
the amount, or,
No, your fee schedule would have to be amended to include the amount.
Yeah,
That's
right,
what it
the
says,
resolution.
as provided in the city's fee schedule.
oh, right.
Yeah. So no, we wouldn't have it here, we'd have, we would have
Here.
it, yeah, we wouldn't have it here, we'd put it in our
Yeah,
fee schedule
yeah.
like we normally do.
Yeah.
That way you can modify it without having to
That's,
change the ordinance.
yeah, that's basically what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So as far as the fees go, now, are you gonna, would you come back with these revisions next month?
We can, it's up to the council what they want to do, but no matter what you do, you've got two options to do. It's the ordinance itself,
Right.
and then the fee,
Right.
create the fee schedule. up.
So the fee schedule would be, it would, I mean, most likely won't be till the April council meeting anyway.
Right.
We would need some
Change the date.
guidance or parameters
Yeah.
on the fee, you know, so that we come back with something that the council is, you know, comfortable with. So that, I guess that's gonna be the thing is, how much should we set this at? You know, if we're trying to set it as a 3-year license, I don't necessarily think that means that we have a higher fee, but at the same time, we're gonna have to have some fee semblance of, you know, minimum that's gonna be, you know, when you look at investigation and all those kind of things when people come in, whether it's a new license or renewal. I don't know what that number is, but, you know, I don't know if we go with something like $50 a year and then $10 or $20 per unit, or $100 and, you know, 10 or 20 per unit, or some other you know, I'm just kind of throwing out some numbers. I guess that's kind of what we'll need, just guidance wise, and then we can come back next month. We come back with the fee resolution, that part of it, and show what the fees would be.
Right,
And
so
then
we
the
could,
council would.
we could potentially accept this resolution today.
You could, subject to the revisions we have, and then we'd
Yes.
also change when you really want it effective. We have April 1st, that wouldn't work, because you still got to do the
Right.
fee schedule. But if you put it out 2 months, 3 months, whatever it may be, It's either adopt next meeting, it's adopt now, but you need to do the fee schedule before it's actually implemented.
Just a quick question. So you have the base fee. So if a person has one apartment, is it just the base fee or is it base fee plus the 1 unit?
Well,
Each additional,
yeah, I think it's just the base
So it would
fee.
be, if 1 unit, it's just the base fee.
Yeah.
that's the way I read it.
All right.
Yeah, that's what it's intended to do.
Gentlemen, what is your pleasure? We put this off till they come back with a tweaked resolution with the fee schedule, or do we pass this section today and?
One further question, how long do you want to ramp up time? You know, if it really was, we had this date in here from before, obviously, when the resolution, or the ordinance was before you previously. We talked about at least having a couple months, that there's time
Yeah.
to implement, get notice out and talk. So if you were gonna do it tonight, I don't think you're adopting anything here until
No,
easily into May, not June.
right.
If you adopt it next month, same thing, really, it's up to you folks.
June 1st, July 1st.
Yeah, so that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking, mid-year or something, then you just have.
2 months from the time that the language is finalized, makes sense to me.
Well, if we're in agreement with the ordinance with the revisions, we could pass this part tonight.
Does that mean you're making a solid motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. We're proceeding.
The only question I have, was it June 1st or July 1st that you want as the date for implementation?
I would probably say July 1st.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I said 2 months after the language is final, so that would get in the same area.
it's close, yeah, it is. No, that's what I'd written down July, I just want to make sure that we have it in the final draft.
So have we gotten any input from landlords?
No, we haven't really reached out to them, we haven't notified landlords.
Okay.
I actually did notify one person and haven't heard a thing back.
Okay.
No comment. Because of course I couldn't say, this is the way it's gonna be. We're talking about this.
I think the key thing's gonna be the fees.
Yeah.
Because if we show them what we currently have and what's required and what we're passing, it's gonna be a lot less burdensome for the landowners, for the landlords. The revised ordinance and the current ordinance is gonna be a lot less intrusive. We don't do inspections currently. You know, we're supposed to do inspections and it's a lot more thorough. So
Another one of those situations that it sounded good on paper, but it never got done.
so actually I think it'll be a better, situation for landowners by far than the current ordinance.
Okay, so to move on to the next item, our 2019 agreement with Louise Tellez. The Otto wagon will be coming back for another season. And need a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Wonderful. Old business. Emergency loss notification software.
So basically, right now, we're kind of down to our last company that we're gonna look at, and we were contacted by Code Red, and I had a really hard time for a few months on and off trying to get anybody and then trying to get a price or any information. Lo and behold, one day they called me, and I don't know if they have a new person or what, but we got, I talked about in the memo, we have a demonstration set up next week, or on Thursday of this week. And so we'll see what comes of that. Code Red, I think, has a lot of advantages, and I haven't seen, we haven't seen the demonstration yet, but just in what I've read about it, it looks like there's additional notification platforms. There's more economy of scale because the county uses it. other cities, I believe, use it. And so I think that it's gonna save money, because they'll be able to use the county data. Anybody who's already signed up through Goodhue County, will be able, they'll just take that automatically and plug it into our system. And so the cost numbers that, they haven't given me a proposal yet, but they seem very good compared to what I thought they were gonna be. So I'm kind of, thinking this may be a good option for us, but we should have, I think we'll have 2 proposals for the council to review at the April meeting, alert fine and then code red. So I think we'll have a couple things to look at. And hopefully after that, then, maybe a decision could be made on it, so.
I don't know if anybody else does, but I have code red.
Yeah, people in town do already, and they told me that would help save money with the setup, because they're just gonna take that database and everything within the city of Kenyon is just gonna be plugged in. I mean, they've already got it basically, so that should help with setup time, and the cost may just be a flat number, but I think it'll help with setup time, so.
So, in new business now, sale of water wagon by the Public Works Department. You gonna sell the building next, Wayne?
Sure. No, it's a piece of equipment we bought, I think, in 2008. And we used it with our old jetter truck because the truck only had 300 to 500 gallons of water. And it's a 1,000-gallon water tank we pull it behind to fill up the jetter truck. Well, now with the purchase of the newer jetter truck last year, we just haven't been using it. So it's kind of taking up some valuable floor space in the shop. So we just wanted to get the okay to put it up for sale and free up some room. It's not a big ticket item. I think we paid $2,800 for it, and not sure what it would go for.
Who would even want it?
I got one guy kind of interested in it, or I talked to one person, I talked to Kenyon Ag about it, because they use them for their fertilizer stuff in the springtime. It might be a deal where you take out the Marin's auction if no one wants to shoot us a price or see what we get.
Coming?
Yep, well, if you don't need it, might as well unload it, I'll move approval.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Appointment to the National League of Cities Community and Economic Development Committee.
So I found out that I was appointed to another NLC committee, and you've got the press release thing that they sent me, and just some information on it. So I'm excited about this committee. This is the one that I wanted to get on 5 or 6, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I was on the Transportation Infrastructure Committee for several years, but this is the one that I kind of always wanted to, I'd always indicated it was my top choice, so. So we had, both committees met this last Sunday and Monday. I just got back from Washington DC today, actually, so we had our first face-to-face meeting, and I think there will be another meeting in November. The rest of it is just conference calls, but yeah, it was very good. They talked a lot about affordable housing. That's a big deal right now with National League of Cities, and they've, I think, got another task force that's actually got members from about 3 other committees that are, and they're really hammered on this whole, legislatively trying to get more, resources for all areas of affordable housing, workforce housing, rehabilitation of rental, USDA, rural development, HUD, rental units. There's a range of things that they're really trying to bring attention to get more support for. And this also obviously crosses over into economic development, and there was also quite a bit of discussion just on entrepreneurship and resources, coordinating resources and kind of a whole list of different levels there, so it was a real good session that we had with both. And the Small Cities Council also talked quite a bit about the affordable housing end of things too, so that was definitely a hot topic right now, so. So that's just information.
So the next item then is Kenyon Country Club liquor license renewal. Motion to approve.
So,
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
And now the other piece of getting the Taco Express back in to approve the annual merchant license. The first agreement was leasing of the property across the street here. Motion to approve?
so,
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Approve appointment of new firemen. Based on interviews held on February 6th, the fire department is requesting that the council appoint the following persons to serve on the department. Blake Hanson, Matt Clark, Dylan Craig, and Garrett Elias. Motion to approve?
so moved.
Second?
On favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We've got 4 more just in time for the banquet this Saturday. And 2016 police SUV for sale from the city of Lake City. This would be 2 years newer than the SUV that we currently have. And most of the equipment that you needed is already there. Any more comments, Chief?
Evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, this, the Chief of Lake City contacted us and said they're looking to sell this car because they're updating to a Dodge product. And said the price was $8,000. I asked what it included. It includes all the lights and the center console and the cage system that they have, which is quite a savings. Lake City does not do an external light bar like what we currently have in all of our cars. And they also don't do push bumpers. I'm a big fan of the push bumper. I can live without the external light bar on the top, but I really want that push bumper. We live in deer country, and we just had to use our push bumper to push some round bales off, and so we do use it more than maybe a city like Lake City would. I'd actually spoken to Wayne about us, when we strip down, if we're approved, to strip down our Crown Vic, taking the light bar off of that and giving it to the fire department to put on one of their trucks that has an old, outdated light bar. So they would certainly have to pay us for that. They could get that in the controller and put that on the truck. So we would be using some of the equipment that way too. Save some money for the fire department as well. Mark and I did go down and look at the squad and test drove it. It rides nice, it handles well. Lake City puts 2 officers per squad, so the same 2 officers use the squad. They've taken very good care of it. It's never had any accidents, anything like that. It's kept in a heated garage. It's in very good shape. And given this past winter, which I know is a little harsh compared to some, having another all-wheel drive vehicle of higher clearance would really be helpful, because I don't know if you saw this or not, but at the last meeting when we okayed Zach's hire at 8 o'clock, by 9:15 he called me because a gentleman had ran a stop sign and had struck him and damaged our SUV, so then we were down to just 2 cars, one of them being a rear-wheel drive vehicle. So having this option, I like it. I like the higher clearance. I like having all the O2 and all the other medical items in the back where it's dry and heated and so forth. And I thought the price was right. So as you can see in my day 2, I did add some estimates for taking the graphics and changing them over and for adding the push bumper and stripping up with the vehicle, so. And we tend to, get really good use out of our used vehicles. We've had that Crown Victoria for quite some time. And then the Taurus we still have, and that's been working well too, so. It was an option that came up, and I thought it was something to bring to the council, so I would like us to explore that.
You got any idea, this is totally a side question, but how the maintenance costs would run on those SUVs as compared to the old, go ahead and hit me if you dare, Crown Vic?
Yeah, that's a tough question, and I don't really have an answer for you. I think we've had pretty good luck mechanically with our SUV. We've had some mishaps where people have hit us, or we've hit some things with it, and so we've had some costs that way. But I don't think overall it's
No,
been,
I was thinking maintenance.
yeah, I don't think overall maintenance-wise it's really been like that. I could give you some numbers for sure, but I think, you know, overall it's worked out well for us.
Yeah, that SUV has been good. I think probably it's not a good comparison, Mayor, when you talk about that
No,
2007 Crown Vic, and I say that not to cast aspersions on all Crown Vics, because most of them I think are
they're
very reliable.
tougher than nails.
That thing, we've done, we got that, the caveat is that car was donated to the city by Prairie Island,
Mm.
you know, their police department. But that, since I've been here, that thing has been in the shop more often than any squad that I can remember in any city I've been in. The engine was replaced. I mean, we've done quite a bit of, had a lot of work done to that thing. And so every time I hear this back in the shop, I cringe, to be honest with you. It's been kind of quiet the last
I know
few
Calvin
months.
Mellon's in the shop, I just wait till the bill comes and
Oh,
I slide it in.
Yeah, it just goes right to soup, because it's just, it's like every other, I feel like every other week that thing is, something's wrong with it. But the 2014 Ford SUV has been, for the most part, has been good. You know, they always have different things come and go because, you know, they're police vehicles and, you know, they can be driven quite hard. But I think overall, it's been reliable. And, you know, this was sort of a quandary when I first heard about it, because I'm trying to get this, and the council has, you know, through the last couple of budgeting cycles, it's been trying to get these all the vehicles in a more normal or more often having them replaced, replacement cycle, kind of move that replacement cycle up. And so the 2014, we talked about trying to replace that this year, trade that in, and then order a 2019. So I was sort of in a quandary because, okay, well, if we get this, then we're probably not gonna, you know, trade that in right away. But what I would tell you is, tell the council is that if we do purchase, if you approve purchasing this, what I still will bring forward during the next budget cycle is replacing that 2014 next year. Because I think that, you know, that should be, you know, it's gonna be 5 years old. Yeah, it'll be 5 years old, and I think that it I think it'll be important to have at least one new police vehicle, because the other two then are both, are pushing, you know, the 2016 by that time will probably have over 100,000 miles. And it certainly can go a couple of years or maybe longer, but I think we still will want to have, because what does the 2014 have right now, like mileage wise?
132,000 on it.
So it's creeping up toward 150. So I mean, I think by next year, we really should, you know, barring, if this comes on board, is added, I think that we should still talk about selling or trading in the 2014 and getting a new, you know, 2020. So I just want to throw that out, because when we talk about it during the budget, I don't want the council to be like, you know,
We just bought this.
we just bought this one, you know, but it's got
I
that.
gotta say, I question Lake City's logic in upgrading Dodge.
Well, plus the price they're willing to
Right.
sell it to us for, I think is very good.
And I like to tell people too that $130,000 in a personal vehicle doesn't sound like much. I mean, my daily driver has 221,000 miles on it. But a squad vehicle is different than your personal car as far as for the amount of wear and tear, the cold starts, the idling time and so forth, so. And when the public hears, well, geez, it only has 130,000 miles on it, they're selling it, it's not talking apples and apples, so. But I thought it was
Now,
really, really
yeah.
nice deal.
And you have to consider uptime too.
So I thought it was a nice deal, I wanted to bring it forward. The car's in really, really nice shape, it's garaged when it's not being used. It's got the backup camera system, which I really think should almost be standard issue nowadays on police packages, for sure, so.
Yeah, they said that they would replace the front seat.
Yeah, it's got some wear marks in it.
They've been more than, I think more than cooperative with this, and they're gonna leave a lot of the lights and the stuff in there that you normally wouldn't think they would leave in there.
Yeah, it's gonna come with, because the new vehicle they're purchasing, the center console in this one wouldn't fit in the old one and so forth, so there's some of those changes that you have to make, like our Crown Vic, if we pulled the cage out of that, it really wouldn't fit anything else, so it wouldn't really make sense to do that, and then, so that's how we get items like that, so, but I thought it was a nice deal. What I liked about this 2016 is that it's got a half cage in it, so you can actually get the driver's seat back farther, so if you have a very tall officer, it's more comfortable, and then if you've got less leg room in the back or less move room in the back, people aren't so likely to try to kick out your windows, or as the one gentleman did, eat all the foam out on the transport, so they're a little more confined, so. But I thought it was a nice deal, and I thought we should bring it up and talk about it. And I think it would probably take a month or so before we would have it, because I'm assuming you need to get their new one in and then swap out the equipment, so it's not like if you okayed it today, you would have it in a week or so, it'd probably take a month or so to get that finalized.
So I would recommend moving forward with this if, and I say that the two things being, one, that we do divest the 2007, because I don't think we're gonna need four police vehicles. And the second thing was that we just keep in mind that the council keeps in mind that, we still talk about replacement of the 2014 next year. Because I still think that'll be important to do that.
And I agree with Mark, we don't need 4 squad cars. That's another thing, you have to find room to park and upkeep, and then the worst thing for a vehicle is to let it sit, so I'd rather us put that up for sale, or whatever you feel.
Now, they do go together, but the way it's written here in the agenda, we probably need to make it as 2 motions, just to keep it clean.
I move with your stipulations that we go ahead with the purchase of the Lake City SUV.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes, and now to approve the disposal. I can find a place in my yard that you could dispose of if I really wanted to.
Then he'll be back to busy.
Yeah.
I like those things.
I love driving that car, I've driven it.
Part of the issue is a lot of the newer officers aren't familiar, they don't know how to handle a vehicle like that. They've always driven either all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive, and
It's true.
I kind of miss that driving front wheel. I can't make my Rockford turns in the winter anymore. So, do we have a motion to approve disposing of that unit?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, I just have one question, so now do we need to set something up at the meeting about how we would sell this vehicle, or is that something that Mark and I can just discuss and decide to put it up for bids or whatever you want to do with it?
Yeah, I mean, by any and all means, I'm assuming that's what the council is saying do, and
Okay,
that's.
I just didn't know if we needed something specific stated.
Whatever's best interest of the community, that's what you always do anyway, so.
Okay, all right, thank you all.
That's good. So, on to other business, schedule of upcoming meetings. The next KMU meeting is Wednesday, 20th at 6 PM. That's regular city council meeting Tuesday, April 9th at 7 PM. And Board of Appeal and Equalization here Wednesday, April 10th at 5 PM. Council and staff general comments.
Again, work crew, it looks like maybe you'll get a little break here now, but, thanks again for everything you guys have done, for this whole winter, especially the month of February. Again, I've heard no complaints at all, and, you guys really on top of everything, so thank you.
Absolutely, and I just hope we have a little slower thaw than what the rain is doing.
What will we find when we walk out here tonight?
Yeah, that's, be careful out here,
Yep.
in front of the utility buildings, it's all ice.
Oh, yeah. There's probably more ice out there now than there was when we came in.
I was wondering, I heard, now next year, they were saying that we're going back to a presidential primary, and it's gonna be in March in Minnesota.
Wow.
With the ice and the snow out here, would it make, and I'm just throwing it out, would it make sense to move it to the fire hall and do the voting there?
Well, believe it or not, the council had this discussion last year.
Okay,
About moving, not because,
Correct.
not because of a potential
No.
primary.
They talked about having elections out there, basically.
Right.
So, Mayor, I don't know if you remember what the,
Didn't we ended up deciding to keep it here, I think,
We
didn't we?
Yes.
ended up deciding to keep it here.
I think there was some
different
concern.
reasons why people had brought it up. And they may bring it up again now. Honestly, I had not heard of this till now.
yeah, they were just talking about it on the news the other night that, it's either this Tuesday or last Tuesday was the 1 year, they said a year from now we'll have a primary in Minnesota. They're going back to the old presidential, they used to always just have caucuses, but now they're doing a primary. And I was walking up here and I thought, man, if it's a typical March with,
Well,
the traffic.
and is that,
So I don't know, I just threw it out there.
does that mean they want to go to party registration?
I have no idea on the details.
Horrible idea.
I don't remember the reasons why we decided to keep it here right now. I can't recall.
Well, there was some kind of different views on that when the council talked about it, but I believe that former Councilman Barsness was, felt very strongly that it should stay here. And I don't know if it was just because it was more centralized, if it was because of the access to this area. I don't recall all of the reasons, and I think maybe Councilman Hinkie brought up moving it. I can't remember who had, or were we, somebody had brought that question up. So anyway, the council decided to keep it here. But that certainly could be discussed again. And I'm not familiar with this whole primary. I know I've heard discussion about it, just kind of, rumors and different things, but I'm not real familiar with March or any specific time period
I'm
next
certainly
year.
going to be looking into this myself.
So, I've also heard that some other states are gonna move their primaries up, AKA California, at the same time as Iowa and New Hampshire, and it's gonna wipe them right out. As far as, all the exposure they get, right now, Iowa and New Hampshire are kind of the first states, and all the candidates go there.
Mhm.
And so if California moves theirs up, and I don't know if it is gonna be moved up for 20, or if it's after that, but all the candidates are gonna go there, because that's, where we're all.
And then if you couple that with eliminating the electoral college, which is another thing that's being talked about a lot.
Well, that's
that
gonna
would
take
really
a
change.
constitutional amendment though.
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah, the only reason, I didn't even know you guys talked about this last year, I just thought of it because, I parked down here, by the utility building and walking up that incline, And I thought, man, it's slick, and if it's, you know, you got traffic, I just thought, you know, on blacktop, at least, you know, this time of year, the sun would get a chance to melt a lot of that, but, you know, so it's just, something I thought, well, maybe we should look at that, but my heart ain't set on it, I just thought I'd bring it up.
Well, we love administering elections, but the thought of moving it up, you know, I can't say we're doing backflips over that idea, but, you know, we'll have to deal with it if that's what happens. Richard?
No comments.
I've made enough comments already tonight on that.
I would just like to thank the county correctional work crew that has come in and painted. They painted this room, and they're working now on the front part of City Hall. They did an excellent job. Took everything down, painted, put everything back up, and it really turned out nice. I think so. I really want to give them a hand. I think they did a really good job. Give them acknowledgement. So.